welcome to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this is episode 374, and today's date is May 24th, 2014, and the title of this episode is The Current Economic Collapse News Brief for this Saturday. Now, we understand the United States, the European Union, and many other countries that are controlled by the private Western central banks. We are all in trouble. We understand the economies are not doing well, and yes, in certain areas there are countries that are doing much better, and then there are areas where countries are really doing horribly and things are really going wrong with very, very high unemployment, very high debt. And in the United States, we understand that the illusion is kept alive with manipulating all the calculations and continually pumping up the stock market and increasing stimulus as time goes on with treasury purchases, not here in the United States, but outside in Belgium. Here, they keep the illusion alive by telling everyone that they're tapering when they really aren't. But what we're seeing right now is that global trade around the world has dropped by 0.5% in March, and this is the biggest plunge in global trade since May of 2009. Now, of course, they might blame this on the weather, but I can't believe the weather really can affect the entire world at the same time during the month of March. Now, out in Thailand, we understand there's some type of coup going on. The general there removed the puppet regime that was very friendly with the United States because the United States central bankers control the puppet regime. And right now, they have disbanded the country's Senate and placed all lawmaking responsibility in the hands of the Army General. The Senate is dismissed. Responsibility for any laws needing the approval of the Parliament or Senate will now be switched to the leader, and this would be the general. This seems a little dictatorship-like, and we'll have to see what happens and how this progresses as time goes on. But again, we understand that the puppet regime was removed. The United States, as we understand right now, has stopped aid to Thailand, and they're also canceling other things. The Pentagon has canceled ongoing military exercises with Thailand right now. The U.S. State Department also announced that it had canceled a firearms training with the Thai police. There were about 700 U.S. troops that were going to participate in the military exercises, and they're not going to do this anymore. And Kirby said the Pentagon was also canceling the June visit of the U.S. Pacific Fleet at this time. So we can see that they are no longer friendly with the government. They are removed. They don't have control of the government. And there is definitely a coup going on. And we'll see how a new government is formed and how the United States reacts to this. Now, in the Ukraine right now, what we're seeing is we understand there's elections going on May 25th. And, of course, all the people who are running for these elections were selected by the United States government, central bankers, and the Kiev people that are in control, because you have to remember this FBI, CIA, and NATO are all there. And also there's a couple senators there that are, overseeing the elections. And I don't understand why senators are out in Ukraine. It doesn't really make any sense to me why they would be there. But right now what we're seeing is Donetsk and Lugansk, they pretty much decided to merge and create one state at this time. And they're saying that they do not recognize the elections in Kiev at this time unless they recognize their areas as being independent of Ukraine. And their second condition is they need to remove all Ukrainian troops from their area at this time. And of course, I know they gave them time frames, 48 hours, 24 hours, and it looks like nothing has happened except the anti-terrorism forces intensified. More people are being shot and killed, and right now it doesn't seem like things are really improving, because we have to understand the U.S. government, the central bankers, and of course they got their marching orders from the bankers that said, listen, take control of the southeast section or you're not getting your money. So we can see that the banks are completely in control of what is going on in Ukraine at this time. Now, Russia right now, it looks like their strategy is to buy up Europe's refineries. Russia's is purchasing different refineries in different countries. Russia's Lukoil, for instance, owns refining operations in Italy, the Netherlands, Bulgaria, and Romania. And we're seeing that the EU is becoming concerned about this, that Russia now created this deal with China, and they are dealing in a trade which will bypass the U.S. dollar. Russia is also purchasing refineries, so they're not dependent on anyone else at this time, and they're very concerned about what is happening about Russia, China buying up the refineries, supplying a lot of the natural gas and oil to other nations, bypassing the EU, bypassing the dollar, and not using that whatsoever. Now, it looks like China might become Russia's biggest gas consumer. China could replace Germany as Russia's biggest gas consumer if Moscow and Beijing agree to add a route from Russia's western Siberia to the one already agreed under the $400 billion contract. So we can see that Russia is taking precautions and moving their agenda forward by making sure that they have other customers. They're diversifying right now to make sure they can survive any new sanctions, and especially if they place sanctions on the country. Now, a U.S. surveillance drone has arrived in Japan. A U.S. surveillance drone arrived at an airbase in northern Japan on Saturday for the first deployment of the spy aircraft in the country. The Global Hawk was brought to the U.S. Airbase from Guam to support U.S. intelligence, surveillance, reconnaissance missions, and contingency operations throughout the Pacific theater. It is also believed it will be used to monitor North Korea and China. And of course, we understand this is why it was brought there. They want to bring in more sophisticated weapons, military assets, and this is why they have moved the base in Japan to a different location, and they're doing just that. This drone is equipped with sophisticated communications capabilities. The Global Hawk can fly at an altitude of 60,000 feet, about twice as high as a commercial passenger plane, for about 30 hours on autopilot. And we understand why they're doing this. We understand tensions are growing in the Pacific, and this is why the United States central bankers have been pivoting to this area. This is why 60% of the fleet is in this area. This is why they have bases encircling Japan, and now they're bringing in drones to monitor the entire situation. And they're doing this on purpose because they understand when war breaks out, they want to have everything in position and ready to go. Now, we understand there's a lot of talk about cyber attacks. We see the dry run in California hitting a power grid substation. We see just a couple days ago a dry run with a cyber attack hitting another power grid substation, and we can see that this is all being done for this main event that is coming. And of course, people are also talking about there could be possibly maybe some type of EMP that could be exploded over the central part of America, which would wipe out power and electronics, and it would take months upon months to repair that type of damage. And if we do go into war, of course, there are certain countries that do have the ability to do this. So the Pentagon right now, they believe this is a real threat, and they're spending $44 million on an EMP bunker in Alaska. Fort Greely, Alaska is home to one of America's 2 domestic missile defense bases. Now it's getting armored against high-altitude electromagnetic energy attacks. And they are doing this because they understand that this is a threat, and they want to be prepared for what is coming. According to a contract documents from the Army Corps of Engineers, the military plans to spend $44 million on an EMP-protected bunker housing the base's missiles launch control systems. So they're taking precautions because we have to remember what has been going on around the world. The United States, the central bankers, are in every single part of the world causing problems because they realize the dollar is collapsing at this time. We're in the Pacific. We see Vietnam, North Korea, Philippines, Japan, China, all squabbling amongst each other. We see Central Africa right now. The United States is sending troops there. They have troops in Italy, which is going to be used as a launching pad to get more troops into Africa and into Libya, because they understand not just Africa but the Middle East is completely falling apart. There have been more attacks in Yemen right now. People are really pushing back and they want their country back. The same thing's happening in Libya, and I do believe that's why they sent in that rogue general that worked with the CIA before, and he is just taking on the armed forces and really moving his agenda, fighting those people who want their country back. We see this happening in Lebanon and Iraq. We see military personnel moving into Iraq, and we see Iraq purchasing a lot more military assets from the United States. And all this is happening at the same time, and we can't forget about Syria. Their elections are coming up, and we understand they have drills that are set. There are many, many soldiers in the region. Right in Jordan, we understand there are soldiers being trained there, and all again, this is not done as a coincidence. This just didn't happen out of the blue. They knew the elections were going to happen June 3rd. These training exercises run from May 25th to June 8th, right at the exact moment Assad elections are happening. So there are no coincidences. This has all been planned, just like the plan to remove all the Syrian government officials in the United States and close the embassy. Just like the State Department was sending out explosives to embassies around the world, to Ukraine and other unknown locations, and of course they didn't want to talk about it. Just like all our government officials, they're out there continually letting us know that Al-Qaeda is coming, Al-Qaeda coming. This is fear, to keep everyone in fear. This is to keep it in the back of your mind that Al-Qaeda is coming. This is allowing them to create more laws to take away our freedoms. And eventually what will happen, because their backs are against the wall, they will need to create this event. And we can see all of this starting to come together now. We have the Pentagon creating this EMP bunker and making sure that they are protected for when this occurs. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.